Be sure to go to flipsidegaming.com and use promo code 6 for 10% off on orders over $10. Do the same at the Grizzly Gentlemen. They are both fantastic deals and they help support the show. What is up, Planeswalkers? Derek Six back for more Magic the Gathering spoilers. This time we're looking at Commander Legends. So for this spoiler season, essentially what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be looking at all of the new cards as well as all of the reprints that I find particularly notable. Typically those are going to be because of price. If a reprint is super expensive because it hasn't been reprinted before, it's probably going to be on this list. Anyway, without further ado, this is the first batch, which is quite large because I'm garbage and I've been doing double videos. I've been doing quadruple videos essentially. But anyway, Sengir the Dark Baron. What's really nice is that this is a callback to a host, a cadre, if you will, of legendary creatures, but this one, 6 mana, 4/4 Vampire Noble with flying, not exactly the best stats starting out, has partner, which is quite nice, means that you can partner this with another commanders that has partner, so long as it's not partner specifically with someone. So you can consider the earlier partners, so like Ikra, Rayhan, Akiri, all of those. Whenever another creature dies, not just yours, any other creature, put 2+ counters on Sengir. Whenever another player loses the game, you gain life equal to that player's life total as the turn began. So I really like this. I think Sengir Vampire is, I can just, Sengir. Look at all these Sengirs. Sengir Vampire, yeah. Whenever a creature dealt damage by this dies, put 1/1 counter on it. So we have that kind of theme here. And I think the idea is that you're sucking out their life, right? The point of the Baron, you're sucking out their life, making himself stronger. Whenever a player loses, you, the player, are sucking out their life essence. So I think that's really cool. I like how it's as the turn began, so we're referencing something earlier. For what it's worth, that might be a little annoying to track, but it's still pretty cool. I definitely like this design. And we have to remember that Commander Legends is a set that's meant to be drafted, right? This is still a Commander format. But it's Commander format where things are meant to be drafted. So some of the cards are going to feel a little lower powered, but honestly, I'm fine with that. I've had a question before about what I think about Wizards printing cards essentially directly for Commander. And depending on how they're done, it determines if I think they're awesome or god-awful. Halana, Kessig Ranger, this is an uncommon legend. She also has a partner. She's a 4 mana 3/4 with reach. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 2 when you do, that creature deals damage equal to its power to target creature. So essentially, whenever one of your creatures comes in, she gets to take a free shot at some creature using that creature's power. It's a bit weird, but still, I think it's very interesting. This costing 2 mana is a lot for this ability, I think. But if you're playing this in a deck that is just a bunch of huge chunkuses, you can pretty easily have this as a very slightly earlier Warstorm Surge, or where Ancients Tread. I'm thinking of Immerstrom because that's the plane that essentially has the Warstorm Surge effect. It's interesting. It's definitely interesting. If you're running a deck with a lot of beasts, a lot of big creatures, maybe something like Mael, you could definitely see some interesting stuff happening with this. That said, for what it's worth, it's in a draft set. It's an uncommon. I would love to see this card and a bunch of other archers, but when you do that creature, for what it's worth, this isn't the one that deals the damage. The creature is. So if you're playing a bunch of Death Touchers, this could help. Or if you have something that gives all of your creatures Death Touch. Is there a card that just has creatures you control of Death Touch? I don't know. But if there is, then this card works really nicely. Elena is her partner, I think. I know haha partner, but I think that's the case. They're both hunters from Innistrad. But she costs 5, so 1 more than look, I know I just saw it. I don't care. Her name is right there. Halana. She's 1 more. She comes down. 4 her stats are flipped, so 4/3 instead of 3/4. She has tap, add an amount of red equal to the greatest power among creatures you control that enter the battlefield this turn. So essentially what you could do, unfortunately she doesn't have haste, but what you can do is if you have both of them out, right? You have a big creature come in. Alena taps like in response to Halana's trigger, right? This is a trigger, so go on the stack. In response to this, you tap Alena, and you add that big amount. You use some of that to pay for Halana's trigger. Bada bing, bada boom. You shoot it. You have some extra mana left over. So that's interesting. I have a Mael deck. I'm not going to be putting either of these in Mael. It's just a thing. Hilariously, if they said partner with, then I probably would. The reason for that is partner with allows you to fetch the other partner. So if these had partner with the other one, then if I cast Alena, I could go find Halana and put it into my hand. So if it was like that, I probably would try them out, but as is, they're okay. The Prismatic Piper, Seb McKinnon's fantastic but horrifying art. 5 mana, legendary creature, shapeshifter. It's a 3/3. It's colorless. If it is your commander, you choose a color before the game begins. The Piper is that chosen color. So the point of this card is specifically for the draft elements of Commander Legends, because this is common, so you're going to be able to get it. So if for some reason you don't get any other like legend that you really want to play with one of your other partners, you can say, all right, I have like a lot of great blue in this pool. I have a green-black partner or something like that. But I really want to be able to use this blue. I don't have any good blue commanders, especially not ones with partner, but I already have these green-black ones that are decent. So I'll play Prismatic Piper with it. Beginning of the game, I'll name blue. Now I have Assault as my color combination. So I think this card's pretty interesting. Your commander, choose a color before the game begins. This is an interesting card. You're like never going to see someone actually play this as their commander in non-Commander Legends games. Except if you do, they're up to something. Then we have I clicked too far. We have a Keeper of the Cord, 4 mana, 3/4 human soldier. Pretty cool looking. At the beginning of each opponent's end step, if that player controls more creatures than you, create a 1/1 white soldier token. At the beginning of each opponent's end step, if that player controls more lands than you may search your library for a basic plains, put it on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. This card is another one of those cards that is Wizards attempting to help white out. Do I think this card is going to help white out? Yes. Not because it has good stats, because frankly it doesn't. Not because of the first ability, because frankly it doesn't matter. But because of that last ability, being able to just stay minimum where the maximum person is great. Sorry, the minimum other person is great. One thing that can mess you up is essentially like this card makes it matter where you sit in turn order, right? Let's say you're at your local game store in 2023, and someone is bringing a ramp deck. The other two people, yeah, they're playing like normal decks essentially, but they're not playing mono white. You want to sit with that person being last before you in the turn order, because if they have, if you have, let's say, 7 lands, right? Two other players have 8 lands, and then this one player has 9 lands, right? Then if that 9 land player is right after you, at the end of their turn, or at the beginning of their end step, whatever, you search, you get 8. Now those other 2 players, if they don't play a land, you don't get a land, right? However, if it's flipped out, you get 1 on 8, maybe you don't get on the other 8, maybe they didn't play a land or something, and then you get another 1 on this one. So it's kind of interesting that it kind of makes that matter, but I'm definitely going to be trying this in my mono white deck. Rejuvenating Spring. So we have the Battle Bond cycle being finished here. It comes in tapped unless you control, or unless you have 2 or more opponents. Very awesome. So these are things like Luxury Suite, Bountiful Promenade. We have those, and we're just getting the enemy pairs. So we have Spectator Seating, Training Center, Undergrowth Stadium, Vault of Champions. I believe that's it. Yeah. So those are all pretty interesting. I like the Battle Bond land, and I like even more when Wizards complete cycles. You'll see Will and Rowan here. I don't think we know any of these other people, but this is very obviously Will and Rowan. We have a reprinting of Mana Confluence, which I didn't realize was, like, not printed all that often. It was $20. The expedition of this is 100, but it's expedition. But yeah, it's $20 is getting reprinted. It's at Mythic, which is kind of weird. Like, it doesn't feel like a Mythic. The only thing I could think of why they would make this a Mythic, like, it's not the price tag. Like, $20 isn't something that Wizards would typically put at Mythic. I think it's because of the draft format. I think you don't want too many people having, like, perfect mana or something. I don't know. I'm not gonna lie. I'm surprised that this is Mythic. Don't get me wrong. I'm very surprised. Like, this is just Journey into Nyx, right? Yeah. I'm very surprised that this is Mythic, but I have to. It has nothing to do with the price, right? $20. That's not something Wizards are gonna forcibly put in Mythic. So it's a little surprising. I mean, the art's great. That's cool, I guess. Brineland the Moon Bracken, card from Zendikar Hexpartner. 8 mana, 6/8. When it enters the battlefield, or whenever you cast a spell with CMC 6 or greater, you may return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. What's nice is that this does not only target things that you don't control. You can target your own things, which is nice. But essentially, the point of this card is you cast things, and you just keep bouncing to people's stuff. Hits only non-lands, but meh. It's a little weird that this is on enters, and the other part of the ability is on cast, and it's not just on creature spells. So I that is both a boon and a bane at, like, the same time. And the reason for that is because if you're playing, like, you can't, like, sneak in or cheat in other, like, big Kraken sea monster things in order to trigger this ability, right? You can't, like, sneak in some Lorthoses and some Rexials and all that. But what it does mean is that you can cast other, like, non-creatures that are also big. You know, you're casting your Mind's Dilation, your, I don't freaking know, your Contagion Engine. Like, I can't think of any freaking high CMC cards right now. But, you know, you can cast those and still get that ability. So I like it. It's not the best, obviously. It's one of the uncommons, but I think it's a very interesting card. Mnemonic Deluge. 9 mana sorcery. Mythic. Exile target instant or sorcery card from a graveyard. Copy that card 3 times. You may cast the copies without paying their mana cost. Exile Mnemonic Deluge. This is like Spelltwine, except instead of getting one thing and one thing, you know, one thing from me, one thing from an opponent, you're just getting one thing from anyone, and you get it 3 times. Obviously, if you're playing in a situation where your opponents are, you or your opponents are playing, like, Time Walks, first of all, I hate you. But second of all, like, that's just what you do, right? You just, like, oh, someone has used Time Stretch. Well, I'm going to Mnemonic Deluge. I'm going to cast Time Stretch 3 times. I think Time Stretch is the one where you take 2 extra turns, isn't it? Time Stretch. 2 extra turns. Yeah, just Time Stretch twice. That was 10 mana, this is 9, so, you know, whatever. But, you know, you cast Time Stretch, and then you cast Mnemonic Deluge on your Time Stretch. Just make sure Time Stretch doesn't exile itself. It doesn't. Wow. And then you just take 6 turns in a row, and your opponent should immediately concede. But yeah, like, people play Expropriate still because they hate people. Yeah, it's just utter nonsense being able to just get something 3 times. I will say it is kind of limited. You know, you have to have that one thing. You can't choose multiple. So, like, if you really need a board wipe, this is potentially just a very expensive board wipe that you're getting from someone else's graveyard. But in general, like, this has a ceiling that is very high. For what it's worth, its floor pretty fucking low. You might be just playing against decks that aren't using a lot of high impact instant sorceries. So. Interpret the Signs. Ooh, wow. Ooh. 6 mana, scry 3, then reveal the top card of your library. Draw cards equal to the card's converted mana cost. If you're playing high CMC tribal, this is kind of interesting. I guess you could be playing something like Mizzix. I think that's her name. The one of the legends from a commander set that used experience counters that made it so your instant sorceries cost less for each of experience counter you own, or yeah, that you have. So something like that might be interesting if you're already playing like a lot of big spells, and you're also playing a lot of ways to make your spells cheaper. I think that's pretty interesting. But other than that, yeah. Wait, this is a reprint? I'm not gonna lie. I thought I checked all of these cards to see whether or not they were a reprint. Oops. Crack the Thumbless. It's a 2-mana 2/2 Goblin Wizard with partner who has no thumbs. Whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell, flip a coin. If you lose the flip, return that spell to its owner's hand. If you win the flip, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. If you lose the flip, the spell doesn't wait to resolve. It goes back to your hand. You don't get to get the spell resolving. If you win this flip, you copy the spell, so you get double. Hence, double or nothing. I've seen a couple people think that it's like, oh cool, like you get to copy the spell or cast it again at a later date. No. You either copy it, or it's put back in your hand and you don't actually get the effect yet. That said, it's Krark, isn't it? Yeah, it's Krark. Weird name. Oh. I didn't realize all of these people were like his proteges or something. Interesting. Yeah, Krark's Thumb. If you would flip a coin, instead flip 2 coins and ignore 1. The point, essentially, is that you have a bunch of flips. You play Krark in a coin flip deck, and you just have fun. Krark is supposed to be a fun card. That's about it. It's a fun card. Tevish Sat. I think is how you pronounce that. Tevish Sat. Doom of Fools. This is one of like the 9 that include like Lord Winggrace, Freyalise, Urza, other people who I can't recall right now. But these are like a group of big planeswalkers of Dominaria that got together and did some nonsense. Anyway, Tevish Sat, really chill dude. 5-mana partner can be your commander. Loyalty 4. +2, create 2 0/1 black Thrall creature tokens. Alright, makes Thralls, sure, fine. You monster, this thing's horrifying. +1. He just has 2 pluses, it's fine. You may sacrifice another creature or planeswalker. If you do, draw 2 cards. Then draw another card if the sacrifice permanent was a commander. That's not bad. A +1 that lets you sacrifice a creature to draw 2 cards. Repeatably. That's not bad, especially considering his other plus gives you creature tokens. You could just have some creatures. Second, like, I mean, you could just use this in like an Aristocrat stack. And since he has partner, you can have him partner up with another good Aristocrats commander, or even just another commander that has multiple colors, so you can play more colors in your Aristocrat stack. And the point wouldn't necessarily be to kind of win the game off of Tevish, but instead it would be, like, Tevish would just be another card that's decent, but that you have access to at all times, right? It's repeatable sacrifice, over the course of turns, not in the same turn, but I think it's generally cool. -10 game control of all commanders, put all commanders from the command zone onto the battlefield under control. That part is really cool, and that part is why I'm probably going to be playing this in Planeswalkers. Notably, very importantly, he doesn't come out, if there's doubling season, with enough to immediately ultimate. So if I had doubling season, right, I bring this out as 8 loyalty, I +2 it to go to 10, and then the following turn I can use it. Still, not that bad. And because a lot of planeswalkers have incidental token creation, the +1 is also quite decent. So I like the idea of Tevish Sat. I plan on using him. Sat's Will. Actually, you know what? I have to show all of you. I played a lot of Cold Snap, and I fucking loved it. Look at this card, dude. Disciple. Tevish. Will claim your soul. Just fantastic. Just fantastic cards. Fantastic Grim cards. Speaking of Grim cards, Sat's Will. 5-mana instant. Choose one. If you control a commander as you cast this, you may choose both. Each opponent sacrifices a creature they control with the greatest power. Exile all cards from all opponents' graveyards. Then create X 0/1 black Thrall creature token, where X is the greatest power among creature cards exiled this way. Notably, X is 1. Is one number, I should say. What I mean by that is, if you exile like 2 10s two 10 power creatures from 2 different opponents, you're not getting 20. You're getting 10. It's just the one thing. That said, it's a cool card. It's an instant speed, which is awesome. It's essentially incidental graveyard hate, right? Because it's also like instant speed, force your opponents to lose their best creature, right? It's a little expensive for what it does, but I think the versatility allows it to be kind of cool. But also, and this is coming full circle on how I feel about the cards that Wizards prints for Commander. This is a card that I like more, because even though I'm probably not going to see a ton of this card, this card at least feels fun, and it feels like Commander to me. I can't really express why. It just feels like Commander. Where some of the cards, they don't feel like Commander. Wow, look at a Vampiric Tutor. It is legal in Commander. And restricted in Vintage, legal nowhere else. This is a reprint. This card's, they're going for a pretty penny. This card makes sense as a mythic. For what it's worth, regardless of what I think about Vampiric Tutor in Commander or tutors in general, I think, like, I guess I'll give my opinion briefly. I think some tutors are fine. Restricted tutors are even better, because for me, the entire point of playing a singleton format is that you are running a singleton format, and like you are having a wider variety that occurs in the games. Like, that's kind of my preference. Is that different things tend to happen. If you run too many tutors, especially non-conditional tutors, then it leads to a little bit of samey feeling. So that's just my brief 2 cents. But this card is a fantastic print here, because this card has very few places it can be reprinted in, right? Very few. It's banned in Legacy, so you're not seeing this in like a Legacy's Masters. It's literally just straight up plumb not legal in any of the other formats. And it's restricted in Vintage, and even though Wizards is not going to be doing a Vintage Masters in paper, so it has very few. This is digital. I just want to point that out. There's very few ways to actually get a meaningful reprint out here, and some people might argue that this being printed at Mythic is not a meaningful reprint, especially with essentially a decent size. But considering the fact that, like, these are like expensive, this is a gold border, not actually legal card, right? This card is not technically legal because it has a gold border. It's $60. This real one is $97, nearly $100. Half that. This is for pre-orders alone. Half that. Okay. I suspect that this card is going to be a little bit lower than this, but still high. For what it's worth, still high. I think this is a fantastic reprint. It's a good job, Wizards. We gotta recognize sometimes. Sphinx of the Second Sun. First of all, Hail Lord Bolas. Second of all, 8 mana 6/6 Flying Sphinx. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, you get an additional beginning phase. Untap, upkeep, draw. First of all, this card is interesting for Commander, because it does something that, like, is unique, essentially. Like, this does something different and new. I don't understand why the art isn't centered on this card. No, I'm actually upset about that now. Why isn't the art centered? Whatever, it's fine. This card's very cool, though. It's an 8 mana card. It's a 6/6. You know, like, this isn't a card, unless you're cheating it out, that is going to be, like, super annoying for people. But it's just a fun, cool card. What does Paradox Ace say? Paradox Ace. The beginning of Enchanted player's first upkeep. Why did it have to specify? Still, theoretically, if you have that, you have mirror, whatever, that Throne of Eldraine enchantment that copies an enchantment or artifact, and then this, and then like a bunch of clones of this, you could have a bunch of upkeeps. So that's cool. Nimrus Una's Trickster. The Riding Beetles, which is adorable. 5 mana 1/6 Flash Flyer. Fairy Knight. 6 toughness. Like, it's small. I understand why it's one. Whatever. Whenever you cast your first spell during each opponent's turn, Oh, I love when people cast things during my turn. I'm playing Grand Abolisher. Look at the top 2 cards of your library. Put one of those cards into your hand and the other into your graveyard. It's kind of interesting. Because it goes in the graveyard and not on the bottom, you can potentially build around that. Have some cards that care about being in the graveyard, getting cards back from the graveyard, etc., etc. But otherwise, it's just some reward for playing flash cards. You cast your first spell during each opponent's turn. Yeah. It's a little expensive, mana-wise, but it's interesting. I'd like to... this is one of the cards that I would like to see someone play. Siani, Eye of the Storm. 4 mana, 3/2 partner. Flying. When it enters when it attacks, scry X, where X is the number of attacking creatures with flying. Some flying tribal. It has partner, so it means that you can partner this up with another creature either that has flying or benefits from creatures attacking or benefits from scrying or something like that. So it's cool. Flying tribal, not something you see too often, but something that's really cool. Liesa, Shroud of Dusk. This is the other Powerpuff Girl Angels. So there's Mono White Abzan. Sure. Bruna. Her. Liesa. Gisela? Yes. Gisela. And... what is her name? The Heron. Host of Herons. The green one, whose name I'm... Sagara, jeez. This one made deals with demons, so Abzan fucking killed her. They're all angels. They're all still like technically doing things for the good of the humans, but because she was doing some uncouth things, Abzan was like, "Oh yeah, you die." Anyway, 5 mana, 5/5, nice. Rather than pay 2 life or 2 mana for each previous time you've cast the spell from the command zone, pay 2 life that many times. So that's cool. For what it's worth, it isn't a May. It's just do that. So when you pay for her, she's gonna cost 5. She's also gonna cost life. Flying lifelink. Cool. You get to get your life back. Right. That's not nothing. Whenever a player casts a spell, they lose 2 life. Wow. For what it's worth, that is symmetrical. You're going to lose life from casting spells as well. But then you benefit from cheating this into play, for example. Or cheating things into play. So this looks really nice in something like Abzan. I don't know why I said Abzan. I meant in Kaalia, where you get some lifelink, which is nice, but you also just force your opponent to hate you. Because they're going to pay a bunch of life, which is good in Kaalia, because Kaalia wants to kill people. Liesa is also just interesting in something like a life drain deck. Very cool card. Ghost of Ramirez de Pietro. I will say a lot of people are upset by the art direction for this card because the OG version is a lot more flamboyant, a lot more visually interesting. This looks like generic Ghost Pirate. Not saying that it's a bad construction, right? The actual piece is good, but a lot of people are upset that it doesn't feel like Ramirez. So, whatevs. Anyway, 3 mana, 2/3 partner. It can be blocked by creatures with toughness 3 or greater. Cool. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, choose up to 1 target card in that in a graveyard that was discarded, or put there from a library this turn. Put that card into its owner's hand. So, someone discards something, someone mills, blah blah blah. You get to have a card go back. I don't know what. I don't know how to use this card. I don't get this card. I'm sure someone is like, what are you talking about? It's this, obviously. I don't get it. Seraphic Greatsword is a 2 mana equip 4 +2/+2 equipment. It's a good old-fashioned mythic. Whenever a group creature attacks the player with the most life or tied for the most life, create a 4/4 White Angel creature token with flying that's tapped and attacking that player. This is reminiscent of Moonsilver Spear. It's reminiscent of Geist of Saint Draft's normal ability. The difference is that you have to be attacking the player with the most life or tied for the most life. And as such, I feel like this card is not actually good. Like, 2 mana +2/+2 is nice. Getting Angel is nice, especially since the Angel doesn't leave. But equip 4, not great. Like, obviously 3 and 3 would be better. 4 and 2 would actually be much better. But you have to be hitting someone with like the most life. I don't think this card's very good. Vioxine Triniform. First of all would be 1. Second of all, this looks a lot like Golem's Eye. Maybe it wasn't Golem's Eye. I don't know. It looks like some Golem card from Mirrored and Besieged or New Phyrexia. Anyway, 9 mana, 9/9. When it dies, create 3/3 colorless Golem artifact creature tokens. Jesus. It has Encore 12. I think this is the first time we're talking about Encore. So, exile this card from your graveyard. For each opponent, create a token copy that attacks that opponent this turn if able. They gain haste. Sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step. Activate only as a sorcery. So, 9 mana, you get a 9/9. When it dies, just dies, not exiles, not leaves the battlefield, just dies, you make 3 3/3s. So essentially, it's a 9/9 that turns into a bunch of smaller creatures. You divide it up. Encore, then, if you have 3 opponents, you encore this card. You attack with them? Sure, who cares? Doesn't matter what happens to those. You sack them at the beginning of the next end step. You have 3 opponents, you have 3 of these. You now have, what is that, 3, 6, 9? You now have 9 3/3s. That's 27 power. For 12 mana, not bad. Very interesting card. You have to exile this card from your graveyard in order to use it. In an artifact-centric deck, you can probably do some pretty dumb stuff there. Maelstrom Colossus is an 8 mana 7/7 with Cascade. I mean, that's honestly about it. It's interesting. It's a common, so you can play it in your Commander Legends draft decks, but other than that, not the best unless you're trying to make a Cascade deck. Breyer Blade Adept. Wizards, why are you making me say these hard names? 5 mana 3/4. Whenever it attacks, target creature and opponent controls get to -1/-1 until end of turn. Encore for 4. Shadowmoor, which is the type of elf this card is from. They had negative counters. That was one of their themes. Why can't we have more negative counters, Wizards? Like, throw us some bones. There's so many +1 counter cards in Magic, and so many negative. Just please, for us, for the people who like to bring others down instead of building themselves up. I mean, this card's not great. Rebecca, Architect of Ascension. Magali Villeneuve did fantastic art. 4 mana 3/4 with Partner. Artifacts you control have protection from each converted mana cost among artifacts you control. If you have a 3 mana artifact, your artifacts all have protection from 3. 2 mana, all protection from 2. Very interesting card. I don't know where you play it. Right now, the best one of the best artifact commanders that I know of is Rhea. I know Silas is also used a decent amount, and you could use Rebecca with Silas. Yeah, okay, she's interesting, but I don't know what else to say about her. Blade Griff Prototype, 5 mana, 3/2 flyer. When it deals combat damage to a player, destroy a target non-land permanent of that player's choice that one of your opponents controls. This is another one of those cards that I really like the design of for a multiplayer format. I'm not in love with how much it costs, but it's a colorless card, so I can understand why they wanted to make it a little bit higher. That said, I feel like this card could have been cooler as just like a white card. But the point of this card is you get to damage someone. That person gets to destroy someone else's thing. So, if you want to aggro down a certain player, but they don't have anything threatening, you get to say, hey, look, I'm going to attack you, but you get to choose what you destroy. But you can't hit my stuff. It's fantastic. I absolutely love this card. Very interesting design. I love like the politics aspect of this. Is like in order for you to be able to destroy something that is hurting you the most, you have to let me hit you. And so you can attach like a sword to this, right? A sword of light and shadow, feast and famine, fire and ice, all of those things. You can attach one of those to this. So you're getting attack triggers. You're getting deals combat damage triggers. You're getting combat damage to player triggers, because you want to make it so that your opponent wants to destroy something else enough that they let you hurt them, which is just really cool. Radiant, Sarah, Archangel. 7 mana, 6/4, flying. Partner. Tap another untapped creature you control flying. Radiant gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. This card is not great, but the art is fantastic. Absolutely beautiful art. And it makes sense. Radiant is just one of those OG characters. Really cool stuff seeing her back again. Unfortunately, the card is just not the best. The saddest thing is that it has to be another. Like, she doesn't have vigilance. Let us tap her as well. And, like, she doesn't give the protection anywhere. She can only protect herself. Bad luck, Wizards. Bad luck. Cool card. Oh, God. Look at this. Look at this nonsense right here. Opposition Agent is a 3-mana, 3/2 flash rogue. First of all, stop printing so many fucking rogues with flash. I hate it. Second of all, you control your opponents while they're searching their libraries. Okay. I guess black gets to control opponents, but, you know, hurting on searching is more of a white thing, sure. While an opponent is searching their library, they exile each card they find. Remember, you're the one who's finding things, essentially. You may play those cards for as long as they remain exiled, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast them. What? This card is similar to Gonti in that if the opposition agent goes away, you still get to use those cards. This card lets you play those cards, so you get to play lands as well. Third, white gets Avid Mind Sensor. Black gets this. I understand that Mind Sensor has flying, but it's -1/-1 in stats. You don't get to control what they search, and you don't get to take what they search. Wizards, come here, Wizards, just come here. Why would you give the card the color that tutors the most? Tutor hate. I mean, you could give it to white, a color that already hates on tutors, and could really use the help, all of the help that it could get. Why? Stop it. For what it's worth, I don't think this card is necessarily going to be too problematic in Commander. However, these cards are going to be legal in Legacy and Vintage, and the cornerstone, well, at least of Legacy, the cornerstone of that format, the pillars, I should say, are the fetch lands. Getting someone with Avid Mind Sensor, that can hurt. But you don't take their card, right? The difference there, Avid Mind Sensor, they might fail to find. Opposition Agent, you get to just take their card. So you're up on resources, and they're down. It's nonsense. Magus of the Order. This is essentially natural order into a card. There's a lot of Maguses. 4 mana, 3/3. Tap, pay green, sack it, and another green creature. Search your library for a green creature card and put it on the battlefield. Shuffle your library. It's cool. It's similar in power level to a lot of the other Maguses, aka not nearly as good as the card that they're named after. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. The Maguses are typically not as good as the actual cards. Like, you have Magus of the Coffers, not as good as Cabal Coffers. Magus of the Wheel, not as good as Wheel, but still. Kodama of the East tree. So we have a bunch of Kodama stuff from Kamigawa. So it's really cool that we're getting more. So we have Kodama of the East tree. We got North, South, Center. We have East now. All we need is West. And I do wonder if we're going to get Kodama of the West tree. We also have Reach and Might. So that's really cool. I really like that. 6 mana, 6/6 partner. Whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, if it wasn't put onto the battlefield with this ability, you may put a permanent card with equal or lesser converted mana cost from your hand onto the battlefield. Excuse me, what? What's nice is that this is another, so you can't just like immediately get a free card when you cast this, but still, it's any other permanent. And it's equal or lesser. Play a land, put another land into play. Let me just make sure. Yeah, this is not restricted per turn. This is not like once per turn. You play a land, you get a second land. You play a 5-mana creature, you get a creature with 5. It's just permanent. It's just permanent. They don't have to share. They don't have to share card types. You could literally play a 0-mana artifact, get a land into play. You could play a creature that costs 5 CMC, put in an enchantment that costs 3. Because green needed more power, so did black, but white gets shafted. Whatever. Casket the Flesh Sculptor, that's me when I become complete. 3 mana, 1/3 Human Artificer, doing the great work. This is a Phyrexian card, I love it. Tap, sacrifice 3 other artifacts and or creatures. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put 2 of them into your hand and the other into your graveyard. This card works kind of with Tevish. Tevish makes some dudes to sack. You can use this to sack, and then you get to put things in your hand. Blah blah blah. Has partners, so you can work this with a bunch of other things. Very similar to Tevish. If you're trying to do some shenanigans, this card is for you. You get sack triggers. It's 3-in-1. It's repeatable in the sense that it's similar to Tevish, but so you can also sack artifacts. So you can get some benefit out of things like the Wellsprings. Mycosynth Wellspring, the other Wellspring that is in my head, but I can't think of the name. But yeah, so you can do some stuff like that. Profane Transfusion, utterly horrifying, but this is the glory of Phyrexia. 9 mana. I wonder if this is a cycle, actually. 9 mana Mythic Sorcery. This might be a cycle. 2 target players exchange life totals. You create an XX colorless horror artifact creature token where X is the difference between those players' life totals. I love this. Imagine for a moment, you're playing Suicide Black. You're just constantly draining your own life total. You play Profane Transfusion, you take Aloro's life total. Then all of a sudden it's this like 30 life total swing. You make a token that's freaking 30/30, and for some reason you have Fling in the deck and you fling it through face. It's fantastic. No, it's cool. This card probably not gonna see like any play. It's just cool. That's about it. Verna the Chaos Bloom, 3 mana, 4/2, legendary elemental shaman. As you cascade, you may put a land card from among the exiled cards on the battlefield tapped. So this is pretty cool. You get some extra benefit when you cascade. This can be your cascade commander, or you could just play this in the 99 of Maelstrom Wanderer, or I don't remember that dumb. It's an ogre. I don't remember. Cascade. Stop it. Oh, Cascade. T. Legendary. Idris. It is an ogre. Yeah. You can play this in Idris. You can play this in Maelstrom Wanderer. You can play this as her own thing. Idris is probably going to get a little bit better because of all of the Cascade cards. Yeah. Cool. She's cool. I think she's interesting. I guess it's blue, green, red. Kind of taking the Amarath approach. Yeah, cool. Forceful Denial. This is not forceful. It's counter target spell and it has Cascade. It's 5 mana. This card's not actually great. You typically don't want to be running counter spells in Cascade decks because you don't want to cascade into a counter spell. This is also just not a good counter spell because you have to be holding up 5 mana to use it. So I don't see this card actually being decent at all. Even in dedicated Cascade decks, I don't see this card being great. Aurora Phoenix, 6 mana, 5/3, flying Cascade. Whenever you cast a spell with Cascade, return Aurora Phoenix from your graveyard to your hand. It's actually, so some Phoenixes come back to your hand, some come back to the battlefield. This card is better for going back to your hand because it has Cascade. Right. This is in your graveyard, you Cascade, you get Aurora Phoenix back, you cast Aurora Phoenix, you Cascade. And this is a 6 mana card, so you have a 6 mana Cascade. It's unfortunate that this doesn't have haste. But Maelstrom Colossus does say creatures you control have haste, so if you have that out, it's like a fast Phoenix. But still, this card's really cool for Cascade decks. Ember Wild Captain, a shout out to Taylor Walpole. Really cool dude. 4 mana, 4/2. Djinn Pirate, really awesome. Whenever it enters the battlefield, when it enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. A lot of Monarch cards in this, which is another thing that I think should just be in like, every Commander game. Whenever an opponent attacks you while you're the Monarch, Emberwild Captain deals damage to that player equal to the number of cards in their hand. So essentially it's like, I mean, literally the art is like, come at me, bro. Except when they come at you, you punch them in the face. Cool card. I like it. I like the style of trying to keep the monarchy, right? Like, in order to exchange the monarchy, you have to deal combat damage to a player that currently has the crown. This is like, all right, let's say you hit me. I'm going to hit you too. And the players that have more cards in hand, they're going to get hit more. Maelstrom Wanderer is being etch reprinted, and I just wanted to point out that this card is also relatively up there. You know, near-ish the $20, between 15 and 20. This is a promo version, which was in Eternal Masters, and frankly, I like this version better. The only reason is because I get a better sense of scale. Like, Box's work is really nicely, like, alien and, like, different and weird. Weirder, in my opinion, than Victor's. But this one has a little bit better scale. So, but yeah, it's really cool. This etch stuff, really cool. Just want to point that out. Breaches, Brazen Plunderer. We got a little bit of this in the Ixalan story, hashtag the best Magic story of recent decades. 4 mana 3/3 Menace Goblin with Partner. Whenever one or more pirates you control deal damage to your opponent, exile the top card of each of those opponent's libraries. You may play those cards this turn, and you may spend mana as though they were mana of any color to cast those. So first of all, you get to play their lands. That's nice. Only if you haven't played a land this turn. I didn't realize this said just damage. So this it's not combat damage. It's just damage. So if you have something like a Fanatical Firebrand, you actually get the benefit from this card. I didn't realize that. I thought this was just combat damage at first. I mean, it doesn't make it like that much better, but it does make it marginally better. That's cool. Coastline Marauders is a 3 mana 0/3 human pirate with trample. 0/3 with trample? That doesn't make any sense. Whenever Coastline Marauder attacks, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn for each land defending player controls. Mono red way of dealing with big ramp decks, I guess. Potentially it has Encore as well, so that's cool, but I don't see this card being terribly effective. 3 Visits. This is the first time this card's been reprinted. This is one of those Portal 3 Kingdom cards that was $115. Search the library for a forest card and put it onto the battlefield. Shove your library. This is not basic forest. This is just forest. You get to go search for a... Not original duels, because you're not a bad person. But you get to go search for a shock. You get to go search for the scattered groves, right? The things from Amonkhet. Any of those lands. You get to search for a Triumph that has forest in it. Bada bing, bada boom. 3 Wishes, fantastic card. I can't wait to get some copies of this. It's an uncommon. This card is going to be actually available, and you're going to start seeing more of this in Commander because it's a really good ramp spell, like really good. Because if it doesn't come in tapped naturally, it's not going to come in tapped for this. So that's really awesome. Malcolm, K9 Navigator. This is the buddy to Breaches. 3 mana 2/2 partner. Whenever one or more pirates you control deal damage. Once again, deal damage. You create a treasure token for each opponent dealt damage. This card helps you cast the cards that you get with Breaches. Also, this one has flying. Breaches has menace. Both of them have types of evasion. That said, if you're playing pirates, still go with Admiral Beckett Brass, because she's Grixis and you get to play with the cool black pirates. Merchant Raiders. 4 mana 2/4. Whenever Merchant Raiders or another pirate enters the battlefield under your control, tap up to 1 target creature. That creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step for creatures you control Merchant Raiders. What's cool about this card is that it's another kind of like different style design, whereas this continues to happen. So if you have Merchant Raiders out, it comes in, you tap a thing. You play another pirate, you tap another thing. All of those things are going to continue to stay tapped as long as you control this Merchant Raiders. That's pretty cool. Numa, Jiraga Chieftain. 3 mana 2/2 partner. Partner. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may pay XX. When you do, distribute X +1/+1 counters among any number of target elves. I did not read elves at first when I saw this card. It made me upset. I'm upset now. I mean, she's cool, I guess, but she says elves. Why you gotta be elves? Oh, it's a dude? He said elves. I hate elves. For what it's worth, if any tribe can make a ton of mana, it's elves. Yeah. Yeah, if anyone can make a ton of mana, it's elves. So, you know what? Sure, have fun with that. I absolutely love this card. Durlock of Scorched Thrash. This is a Jund card. That's a card from Alara. Alara, for those of you who don't know, is my favorite plane. Is a 4-mana 4/4 Vigilance Viashino Shaman. A player losing unspent mana causes that player to lose that much life. Pay 1, tap. Each player adds black, red, green. It provides ramp for yourself. It hurts you. It's symmetrical. That's fine. I play mono white. I'm used to symmetrical things. But it just hurts them. It's so funny. It's just so funny that it hurts them. I love this card. It can even attack and still use its ability because it has vigilance. I absolutely adore this card. 4-mana 4/4, just everything about it. It's crisp. Horizon Stone. 5-mana artifact. If you would lose unspent mana, that mana becomes colorless instead. I mean, it's essentially Krufix, except in artifact form. It's interesting. Oh, wow. It's going for... The foil is going for a lot right now. That seems a little excessive for what it's worth. The thing is, this card costs 5 mana. And it's not your commander. So you're not going to have, like, immediate access to it on turn 5. I don't know what applications this has, but I'm sure there's something dumb and broken. Gore Muldrak, Amphinologist. There's an Amphin right over there. I don't know what he's touching, but I'm sure it was a stupid thing to do. 3-mana, 3/2. You and permanents you control have protection from salamanders. At the beginning of your end step, each player who controls the fewest creatures creates a 4/3 blue salamander warrior creature token. I do not understand this card. I don't see this card ever seeing play. It is a meme, and I don't get it. Amphin Mutineer. 4-mana 3/3 salamander pirate. I don't get why they decided to make salamanders. Like, they did this, I can't remember when they made Amphin. I think this was back in, like, M13 or something like that. M12, wow. This is the Amphin. We got M12, M15. I'm fairly certain, right? Type salamander. Alright, there are a few more salamanders than I thought. But there are still not fucking salamanders. It's just weird to me that they decided to make Amphin. Like, I don't know, it's weird, because the frogs are amphibians, but Amphin are not actually amphibians, they're specifically salamanders. It's just weird. Alright, whatever. When it enters the battlefield, exile up to one target non-salamander creature. That creature's controller makes a salamander. You get to turn something into a salamander. Whoop-de-doo. Meteoric Mace is a 6-mana equipment. Equipped creature gets +4, plus own as trample, equipped 4, Cascade. It's interesting in the context of this. I don't see this being actually played in the Cascade decks. It doesn't do enough, I don't think. Port Razor is a 5-mana 4/4 orc pirate. Whenever Port Razor deals combat damage to a player, this one has to deal combat damage. Untap each creature you control after this combat phase. There's additional attack phase. Port Razor can't attack a player if it already attacked this turn. This is a mythic, and it should be. Oh, this untaps all your creatures, not just pirates. This card's scary. So, if you're in a 3-player game, you attack one person, you deal damage with Port Razor. You get to attack. Attack player number 2. You deal damage. Untap. Attack player number 3. You've had 3 combat steps in one turn. That said, this thing could die. The rest of your creatures could die. But, if you have a way to make it so this guy can't be blocked, that's a lot of damage. I saw this bolt in half. Ketis Emberclaw Familiar. This thing is fucking adorable. I do not care what anyone says. This little critter is cute. 2-mana, 1/1 partner. Whenever a commander you control deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to each other opponent. Adorable. Absolutely adorable. Wizard seems to have been put a decent number of cards in here that help out specifically Voltron cards, Voltron commanders. Voltron, for those of you who don't know, or who have a relatively small play group, has not been doing great recently in Commander, at least in like 4-person Commander. And it seems like Wizards recognized that, or the rules committee had told them, like, hey, by the way, or the Commander Advisory, I don't know, there's too many committees, whatever. Anyway, so Wizards is making some more cards for them, so I think that's cool. I think Wizards trying to help out some very obviously weaker strategies is nice. Zara Renegade Recruiter. Pretty sure this is, I mean, considering Renegade, Filigree, oh, and Blue Person, this is Kaladesh. 5 mana for 3 flyer, human pirate. Whenever she attacks, look at defending player's hand. You may put a creature card from it onto the battlefield under your control, tapped and attacking that player planeswalker they control. Return that creature to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. If you flicker that creature and it's like return it to the battlefield, just like under your control. If you just end the turn with something like Sundial of the Aim, you can just keep that creature. That's hilarious. She robs you. I think that's hilarious. Just more pirate stuff. It's cool. Court of Cunning. This is a cycle, and spoiler alert: the green one's the best one. Court of Cunning is a 3-mana enchantment. ATB, you become the Monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, any number of target players each mill 2 cards. If you're the Monarch, each of those players mills 10 cards instead. Pretty interesting. You get to just like super mill people. You get to target players, and you can target yourself. So, you know, if you're not playing a dedicated mill your opponent strategy, but maybe you're playing a deck that likes to have things in your own graveyard, this is decent. I like the design of this card. I don't like the design of the green one. Amarath the Lustrious. 6 mana, 6/6 Flying Dragon. Whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, look at the top card of your library. If it shares a card type with that permanent, you may reveal that card and put it into your hand. I am putting this directly into the Ur-Dragon. There's another permanent. Bruh! Play a land. Look at the top card. If it's a land, you get to put it in your hand. Bruh. That's so cool, dude. She's cool. That's cool. That's cool. I like that. Demonic Lore. 3 mana enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, draw 3 cards. At the beginning of your end step, you lose 2 life for each card in your hand. It's interesting. Very similar to Treacherous Bargain, I think is what it is, from Theros. And you just draw some cards. It's an enchantment, so I might try this in Daxos the Returned. But you to have something to get rid of enchantments, because 2 life isn't a lot. 2 life per cards, that's a decent amount. 2 life every turn, now you're starting to hurt yourself. Blim, Comedic Genius. I love this little Rakdos imp. First of all, I don't love how it looks, but that's a good thing. 4 mana, 4/3 flying. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, that player gains control of target permanent you control. Then each player loses life and discards cards equal to the number of permanents they control but don't own. Hilarious. It's like the aggressive opposite of Zedru. It's just like, hey, I'm going to give you these things. You don't have a choice in the matter. Oh, and by the way, you have to hurt yourself and lose some cards because of it. Really cool. Kamal, Heart of Kroza. 8 mana, 5/5. At the beginning of combat on your turn, creatures you control get +3/+3 and gain trample up until end of turn. Has partner, I forgot to mention that. 2 mana, until end of turn, target land you control becomes a 1/1 elemental creature with vigilance, indestructible, and haste to still land. Target land becomes... Come on, I don't think this card's going to be any good. I mean, it's cool that it has partner. I am seeing now that it gives trample. I mean, even if it is 8 mana, like repeatable, like every single combat, you're getting an overwhelm or whatever, overwhelm and stampede. And if you have ways to get extra combats, then your creatures are going to keep getting bigger. All right, there's cases for this card. Kamal's Will. 4 mana instant. Choose one. If you control a commander as you cast a spell, you may choose both. Until end of turn, any number of target lands you control become 1/1 elemental creatures. They do the Kamal thing, whatever. Or choose target creature you don't control. Each creature you do control deals combat damage equal to its, or deals damage equal to its power to that creature. Sure, cool, interesting. I guess you got a pseudo fight card. You have Rabid Bite, essentially, and a way to just make a bunch of your lands into creatures. What's really nice is that these are indestructible, so your lands aren't going to be just murdered. This is essentially a way that you could fog. I guess the issue with doing that is like holding up enough lands that you can actually... Yeah, holding up enough lands that you could actually block and still cast this card? I don't know. Prava of the Steel Legion. I don't know where she's from. Is that a lady cat? I don't know. I also don't care. 3 mana, 1/4 partner. As long as it's your turn, creature tokens you control get +1/+4. 4 mana, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. Why doesn't she make cat soldiers? I mean, this has vigilance, but still, she make cat soldiers. Whatever, it's fine. It's a token commander as partner. I don't have a token deck. I don't care about her. Livio. I don't know. Oathworn Sentinel, 2 mana, 2/2, partner. Humanite. I don't see your mount, friend. 2 mana, choose another target creature. Its controller may exile it with an Aegis counter on it. 3 mana and tap. Return all exiled cards with Aegis counters on them to the battlefield under their owner's control. I don't get it. Like, you can protect some of your creatures, I guess? But only kind of? And they remain exiled, like, if he leaves? I guess for what it's worth, since he just cares about the Aegis counters, if he dies and then you recast him, and you can activate his ability again, then they will come back. Return all exiled cards with Aegis counters on them to the battlefield. Another thing that I am considering, with an Aegis counter on them, return all exiled cards with Aegis counters on them. No, never mind. Because if it doesn't have this part of it, because I think they come back to the battlefield with Aegis counters. I think they come back to the battlefield with Aegis counters, but if they get exiled again, not from this ability, I think they lose the Aegis counters. Based on, like, Skullbriar, I'm pretty sure that's the case, so. Dargo the Shipwrecker, giant pirate. You're breaking ships. How are you a pirate? Whatever. 7 mana, 7/5 partner. Trample. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may sacrifice any number of artifacts and or creatures. This spell costs 2 less to cast for each permanent sacrifice this way, and 2 less to cast for each other artifact or creature you sacrifice this turn. So I think that's pretty cool, that you don't have to sacrifice to this dude's ability in order to get the cost reduction. So if you're just playing some weird red sacrifice deck, I mean, I guess this does have partner, but still, if you're playing some weird red sacrifice deck, then you can catch this guy for pretty cheap. I mean, it's 2 less for each other artifact or creature you sack this turn, and that's only 3. Sacking 3 things? Huh. With the Phyrexian dude, whose name I've immediately forgotten, whose art I can remember, but whatever, he taps and sacks 3 artifacts or creatures. So you could play this dude for 1 right after you do that. Huh. It's interesting. I think you have to build specifically around it, but still. Jessica Thrice Reborn. Papa Bless. Can be your commander, partner. 3 mana, 0 loyalty walker. She enters the battlefield with a loyalty counter on it for each time you cast a commander from the command zone this game. So if you cast her partner and then her, she'll have 2. If you cast her once, she'll have 1. Second time, she'll have 2. Third time, she'll have 3. Blah, blah, blah. 0. Choose target creature. Until your next turn, if that creature would deal combat damage to one of your opponents, it deals triple that damage to that player instead. You don't have to choose your own creature. You can say, hey, you have this flyer, the scariest person at the table, besides yourself, doesn't have any flyers. I'm going to choose this, attack them, deal triple damage to them. Fantastic. -X. Jessica Thrice Reborn deals X damage to each of up to 3 targets. She doesn't divide. The first time she comes out, let's say she has 1 loyalty. -X, you deal 1 damage to 3 targets, up to 3 targets. But still, 1 damage. Next time, 2 damage, 3 damage, 4 damage. For what it's worth, it's a -X, so you don't have to do it all in one batch, right? You cast her the 5th time or whatever. She comes in with 5 loyalty. You can do a 2 and then 3, right? But I'm just saying, it's a really interesting card. I love the design of this. It's fantastic. It was also a Merchant's preview card, alongside Jessica's Will. 3 mana, choose one. If you control your commander as you cast this, blah, blah, blah. Add red for each card in target opponent's hand. Interesting, sure. Exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. Exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. Add... Like, realistically speaking, I'm just trying to figure out how much this is going to net you. Like, it's probably only going to net you 2 mana. Like, on average, you're probably going to get, like, 5 mana from this card. 4 or 5, something like that. You get... You exile the top 3. But, see, these ones only last this turn. Instead of until, like, your next turn. I think this is the weakest one so far. But then again, I'm not a red player, so I don't actually know. Crossroads Auger. 6 mana, 5/6 Sphinx with partner. If you would scry a number of cards, draw that many cards instead. This card's absolutely hilarious. This is just another one of those cards that I really think is an interesting design. You take something that, you know, a lot of incidental cards do, and then you have a card that builds around it, right? You could just have a bunch of scry cards. Boom. You draw them instead. That's awesome. It's cool. I like it. Laboratory Drudge. Is this the same person who drew Lab Maniac? Lab. This is... I cannot pronounce your last name. It isn't. Huh. It's good. It's a good job, though. 4 mana, 3/4 zombie. I didn't make it. I didn't make it to the mute button. Oh, gosh. Whew. 4 mana, 3/4 zombie horror. At the beginning of each end step, draw a card if you cast a spell from your graveyard, or activate an ability of a card in a graveyard this turn. Yeah, I mean, that's cool. Works on flashback. Works on unearth. Works on jumpstart. Works on casting cards from your graveyard, like not Ghoul Color. What's that guy's name? The 1 mana, you all know. The 1 mana 2/1. Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. Yeah, it's cool. Keleth, Sunmane Familiar. Jesper Icing. Just fantastic art. 2 mana, 1/1. Whenever a commander you control attacks, put a 1/1 counter on it. Partner. So before I had an Ikra and Rayhan +1/+1 counter stack, but I didn't like them as just black-green because a lot of +1/+1 counter stuff is in white as well. So I figured I would take that deck, I would trash that and turn it into Abzan, probably just using Gave. But now I don't have to. Now I get to keep Rayhan because I really like Rayhan. I get to keep Rayhan as one of the commanders, and I have Keleth now. Keleth on turn 2, Rayhan on turn 3. Attack with Keleth. You have a 2/2. Rayhan's a 3/3. You attack with both of those next turn. You get 2. It's just fantastic. I absolutely love this. Love this card. Court of Grace. 4 mana. Enters the battlefield, become the monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. If you're the monarch, create a 4/4 white angel instead. It's decent. Like, 4 mana... 4 mana for a 1/1 every turn, not great. 4 mana for a 4/4 every turn, fantastic. So, it's fine. Court of Ambition. Monarch, blah, blah, blah. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent loses 3 life unless they discard a card. If you're the monarch, instead, each opponent loses 6 life unless they discard 2 cards. It's cool. It's good. I'm gonna say I like all of the courts except for the green one. I think the green one's pushed too hard. Belb, Corrupted Observer, aka Lady Danger. 2 mana, 2/2, Zombie Elf. At the beginning of each player's post-combat main phase, that player adds Colossus for each of your opponents who lost life this turn. Damage causes loss of life. This card's interesting. I don't know how to use this card. At the beginning of each player's post-combat main phase, that player adds mana for each of your opponents who lost life this turn. So if you're playing a 3-player game, all of your opponents can get max 4 mana. You can get max 6 mana. It is colorless. I assume Belb is a Phyrexian character. She is talking about Wrath. Yeah, I think Wrath got overrun by the Phyrexians as well. I don't remember my lore. Archon of Coronation. 6 mana Archon. It's a mythic 5/5 with flying. When it enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. Nice. As long as you're the Monarch, damage doesn't cause you to lose life. When a creature deals combat damage to you, its controller still becomes the Monarch. So be wary of first strike creatures. First strike creatures that hit you, take the monarchy away, and then the rest of the creatures hurt you. Be wary of that. That said, this card is really cool. It makes me want to build a Monarch deck. I mean, a lot of the Monarchy cards make me want to build a Monarch deck. The issue is I don't know what deck, what I would do. Because, if you're playing Commander, have at least one card that makes you the Monarch. The card is just so fun. The gameplay is just so fun. Ragrak, son of Rorga. Legendary Kobold. First strike, Menace, Trample. It is a 0 mana partner, 0/1. With first strike, Menace, and Trample. Tago Goblin Weaponsmith is a 3 mana 2/2 with partner. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create an artifact equipment token named Rock. It has equipped creature, has 1 in tap, sacrifice a rock. This creature deals 2 damage to any target and equip 1. I feel like there's too much cost associated with this. I feel like it should either be equipped. No, I think it shouldn't cost you any mana to throw the rock. I think it should still tap the creature, but I don't think you should have to pay mana to throw the rock. Like, I feel like just because of that, this card is not going to be played, which is very sad. I think having it still have an equip cost, I think that's more reasonable. But yeah, forcing us to pay mana to throw the rock is unfortunate. Like, if it was pay mana or tap, like either of those would be fine. Together, I think this card's not worth it. Wheel of Misfortune. 3 mana, sorcery. Each player secretly chooses a number, then reveal those numbers. Wheel of Misfortune deals damage equal to the greatest number chosen to the players that chose it. Then each player who didn't choose the minimum number discards their hand to draw 7. This card is so incredibly confusing. Essentially, choose some numbers. If you chose the biggest number, you have to you get hurt. If you didn't choose the minimum, you get to discard your hand and draw. It's interesting. Wheel of Misfortune. Is this Rakdos? Yeah, I think these are Rakdos, folks. Cool. Najeela is being reprinted, only printed so far in Battlebond at 16. I think it's a cool reprint. Sweet Gum Recluse. Censored. I'm very sorry for this. 6 mana, Flash, Spider, Cascade, Reach, 0/3. When it enters the battlefield, put 3 1/1 counters on it. Put 3 1/1 counters on each of any number of target creatures that enter the battlefield this turn. So, the way Cascade works is if you get a creature that... I'm sorry, I can't look at this anymore. Just gonna... None of these are big enough. You know, here we go. Just... There we go. That's better. The other creatures, they'll enter the battlefield before the card with Cascade does. So you cast this, you cascade into a creature, that'll be on the battlefield, then this will come in, then you get the trigger, the ETB trigger. So you have this trigger, you can choose to make this 3/6, which is on rate, essentially. And the other card, bigger. I need to stop looking at this. It's freaking me out. Colfinor. The Last U. 6 mana for a 3/7 Vigilance Reach Treefolk Shaman. Whenever it or another creature you control dies, return up to 1 other target creature card with lesser toughness from your graveyard to your hand. Very cool card. Working on the whole Treefolk being toughness oriented. Very similar to like Soul Shift, essentially. Just overall, very, very cool card. Creature control dies, return up to 1 lesser toughness from your graveyard. That said, I don't know how you build around this card, right? You have things like Carador. It's like those are just like easy graveyard recursion stuff. But Colfinor is a little different, a little tougher to build around. Hopefully enough people care about the flavor and stuff that they will. Slash the Ranks, a really cool card. 5 mana, destroy all creatures and planeswalkers except for commanders. Really awesome. This is another one of those cards that are really good for Voltron commanders. Voltron commanders typically aren't going to care too much about their other creatures dying. They just want their Voltron to stay around. That said, they might still need board wipes because the board might be too wide. So Slash the Ranks is really cool. I think it's awesome. Staff of Domination. I did not realize this card was only printed in 5th Dawn. In Invention, but whatever. It was $50. It's half that now. That's good. It's a good reprint. Jeweled Lotus. This is the pre-order. Zero mana. Tap. Sacrifice it. Add 3 mana of any one color. Spend this mana only to cast your commander. Initially, I thought this card was insane. Now I just think it is a round Sol Ring where I just don't want to see it. The reason is, in a deck where it works, it's just going to be annoying when it works, right? Your opponent going turn 1 Kurkesh, right? Your opponent going turn 1 Grand Arbiter, right? It feels very similar to Mana Crypt, Mana Vault, Sol Ring, all of those cards, all of those mana rocks that, in my opinion, are too strong, generally speaking. Yes, technically, there was some evidence to suggest that the people who were playing Sol Ring weren't necessarily winning more often, but instead were targeted. The issue is that's not gameplay that I find enjoyable, right? If one person at the table has a Sol Ring and everyone teams up on them and they die, that's not a fun game in my opinion, because you're being forced to attack that person because of how much better their start was. If you're playing a 4-player game and 2 people have Sol Ring and 2 don't, there's a number of ways that can play out. But typically speaking, the 2 players that don't are essentially just invisible, and or they're being used by the other 2 players to deal with one of the other person with Sol Ring, blah blah blah. If you're in a game where 3 people have an early Sol Ring, and I'm not saying turn 1, I'm saying like early, like first 3 turns or something like that. They have an early Sol Ring, and you don't. You're essentially not in the game. And even if you get back in the game, even if you win the game, it's not as fun. And this is my opinion. So I don't think Jeweled Lotus is a broken, oh my gosh, ban it now. I think it's this card is on a similar power level to Sol Ring and its friends, Mana Crypt and Mana Vault, and I won't be playing with this card. When I'm playing with people in my playgroup, I'm not going to be playing with this card. I'm going to politely ask them not to use this card, and possibly just not play if they want to use this. And that's something else that you should all recognize, is that when you're playing Commander, of course this is harder if you don't have like a dedicated playgroup that are your friends, right? Before the game starts, rule 0, talk to each other, see if certain things are being played, if certain deck archetypes just aren't like welcome, or people don't find them fun. For example, if I'm playing against decks that go like turn 1, turn 2, turn 3 ramp, turn 4 ramp even, I will play Mass Land Destruction. However, if I'm playing against people who ramp here and there, but whose decks aren't getting to like 10 mana before everyone else gets to 5, then so it's whatever. It's one part of the kit. So it really depends. But like, I would not play with this card, not because I think it is more broken than Sol Ring, but it's because I think it is as unfun as Sol Ring is. I would like to live in a world where people don't play with Sol Ring and its ilk. People don't play things like Cyclonic Rift. And just generally speaking, I would prefer to see even fewer auto-includes. I wonder, that would take way too much time, but like to go through all of the cards that are fundamentally auto-includes and like play games without those cards, right? Like not like a new format per se, but just kind of like hey, let's see what this is like, right? Every deck and their mom playing Sol Ring, Arcane Signet. If you're playing white, you're probably playing Austere Command. If you're playing blue, you're probably playing a bunch of nonsense, but particularly Cyclonic Rift. So just taking those cards and just being like, let's make some decks without these. Let's see how fun it is. So I've talked about this card enough. Scroll Rack being reprinted, $85, $50. Not exactly half, but still about half. That's fantastic, right? This is a card that I wanted to have in my mono white deck because it helps mono white a decent amount, because you just put a bunch of planes away. But I couldn't buy this. I couldn't pay for this, so it's cool. I believe that is Hannah, Ship's Navigator. None of these have flavor text. I want to say that's Hannah. Kinsbale Courier, 3 mana, Kithkin Soldier. When it enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on target creature. Can target itself, has Encore 3. This is a common Encore card. It's whatevs. And last, but definitely not least, for today, Archelos Lagoon Mystic. 4 mana, 2/4, Turtle Shaman. As long as it's tapped, other permanents enter the battlefield tapped. As long as it's untapped, other permanents enter the battlefield untapped. I feel like it would have been cool. It might have been too good, but maybe not. The thing is, it's a Sultai commander, and Sultai is one of the stronger color combinations in Commander. But like this isn't inherently a strong commander. But it would be interesting if like you could choose not to untap this card during your untap step. But I think the main point of this card is like you give it some sort of protection, so that you can on your first main phase before you attack, play a bunch of like lands that would come in untapped and all this, or would come in tapped and all that stuff. Oh my gosh, you can play Nevin Rule's Disc, and it comes in untapped. That's pretty dope. But yeah, you play a bunch of things like that, and then you attack with it, and then your opponent's stuff all comes in tapped. Like that's interesting. But that's about it. Holy crap! I talked for an hour and 30 minutes. I have like no oxygen left in my brain. I need to recuperate. Anyway, I'd like to thank my lovely patrons for the continued support. If you'd like to join them and support the show, you find links in the description below. I'm dying. Like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, all will be one.